You will be moving into this person's house. See the picture before it gets deleted. My beloved child, hold your attention for just a little while, because something unusual is unfolding around your future, and if you rush past this moment, one small clue could disappear before you even recognize why it mattered. There are certain doors in life that seem ordinary until destiny quietly places your hand on the handle. Today is not about predicting the future with certainty. It is about recognizing the quiet patterns that have been guiding you toward a life you never imagined. Somewhere, a house exists that feels strangely familiar, even though your feet have never crossed its doorway. Strange, isn't it? How can a place you've never visited already feel connected to your heart? Stay with this story, because every moment reveals another piece of a picture that seems to have been waiting for you all along. Have you ever looked at an unfamiliar home and experienced an unexpected sense of peace? Not because of its size. Not because of its beauty. But because something inside you whispered, "This feels important." Most people ignore moments like these, believing they are random thoughts that drift through the mind and disappear forever. Yet sometimes life communicates in quiet impressions instead of loud announcements. Imagine if your next chapter wasn't introduced by dramatic events but by gentle signs that only the patient are willing to notice. What if your future is approaching so naturally that it doesn't need to chase you? Instead, it simply waits for you to become ready enough to recognize it. Now picture this. A photograph appears before you for only a brief moment. Maybe you scroll past it online. Maybe someone casually shows it to you. Maybe it flashes across a screen during an ordinary day. At first glance it looks like nothing more than another beautiful home. But hours later you find yourself thinking about it again. Days pass, yet that image refuses to leave your memory. Why? Because sometimes the heart remembers what the eyes have only just discovered. Not as proof of fate, but as a reminder that certain possibilities resonate more deeply than others. Could this be one of those moments? Or is your imagination simply asking you to pay closer attention to the direction your life is already taking? Listen carefully, because this next thought might change the way you view every unexpected encounter. Your future is rarely built in one giant leap. It is assembled through countless tiny connections that appear unrelated until one day they fit together perfectly. A conversation. A message. A photograph. A new opportunity. A person whose path unexpectedly crosses yours. Separately they seem ordinary. Together they become the bridge between who you are today and who you are becoming tomorrow. Isn't it fascinating how the biggest transformations often begin with the smallest details? Perhaps the house mentioned in this story is not merely a building. Perhaps it represents belonging. Safety. A place where your heart finally exhales after carrying invisible weight for far too long. Every person secretly hopes to find a space where they no longer feel like a visitor in their own life. Maybe that feeling has been searching for you just as much as you've been searching for it. Think about that for a moment. We often assume we are chasing our future. But what if certain opportunities are patiently waiting for us to catch up with them? There is another layer to this mystery. The person connected to that home may not even realize how their life is slowly moving toward yours. While you wonder whether anything meaningful is changing, they could be learning lessons, making decisions, or letting go of old chapters that quietly prepare both paths to meet. Neither journey needs to be rushed. Growth that lasts is rarely hurried. Every delay may simply be creating stronger foundations for what comes next. Doesn't that make every waiting season feel a little different? Before you decide this story is only about someone else's future, ask yourself one honest question. Have you changed recently? Have your priorities become clearer? Do certain places, people, and dreams no longer excite you the way they once did? If your answer is yes, then perhaps you are already stepping into the beginning of a new chapter without realizing it. Every transformation starts internally before it becomes visible externally. The outside world simply catches up later. Now imagine walking through the entrance of a home that feels peaceful instead of unfamiliar. Sunlight fills the rooms. Laughter echoes naturally through the space. Every corner carries a sense of comfort rather than uncertainty. You don't need luxury to recognize happiness. You only need peace. That image isn't presented as a promise or prediction. It is a reminder that every meaningful future begins with the willingness to believe a better chapter can exist. Once your perspective changes, your decisions begin changing too. And those decisions quietly reshape your destination. Something interesting happens to people who remain open to new possibilities. They begin noticing opportunities they previously overlooked. A simple invitation becomes meaningful. A new friendship grows unexpectedly. A different direction suddenly feels right. The world hasn't changed overnight. Their awareness has. And awareness is often the first key that unlocks extraordinary experiences hidden inside ordinary days. So don't dismiss every unexpected picture that catches your attention. Don't ignore every peaceful feeling that arrives without explanation. Instead, observe. Reflect. Stay curious. Because life has a remarkable way of introducing tomorrow long before tomorrow officially arrives. The picture may fade. The moment may pass. Yet the lesson remains. Sometimes what appears for only a second leaves an impression that shapes an entire future. Stay close, because the next chapter reveals why this mysterious house may be connected to someone whose path is moving toward yours in ways neither of you could have predicted, and once that hidden connection becomes visible, everything you've heard so far will begin to make far more sense. Pause for just one more moment, because what you're about to hear isn't about coincidence. It's about connection. There is a reason certain people enter your thoughts without warning, and there is a reason some places seem to linger in your imagination long after you've moved on. The story is becoming clearer now. That house you've been picturing is only one piece of something much larger. The real mystery has always been the person whose journey is slowly aligning with yours. Keep listening, because the next few moments may cause you to see your own path from an entirely different perspective. Imagine two lives moving through completely different seasons. One person is letting go of old routines, making room for unexpected change. The other is quietly becoming stronger through experiences that once felt confusing. Neither of them knows the other exists in this moment. Yet every decision they make is shaping a future meeting that feels almost impossible to predict. This isn't about destiny forcing two people together. It's about growth creating the conditions for meaningful connections to happen naturally. What if the reason your timeline has felt slower than expected is because every chapter before this one had something valuable to teach you? Think about it. If certain opportunities had arrived too early, would you have recognized their value? Would you have appreciated the people standing beside you? Sometimes patience isn't delaying your future. It is preparing you to protect it once it finally arrives. Now return to the image of that house. Notice something interesting. It's no longer just walls and windows. It represents a life built with intention. A place where conversations last longer than distractions. A place where dreams are spoken aloud without fear of being misunderstood. Whether that home is large or modest no longer matters. What matters is the feeling attached to it. A feeling of belonging that so many people spend years searching for. And here's something even more fascinating. The person connected to that home may also be wondering why they feel that something important is approaching. They may not have answers either. They simply notice subtle changes. Their goals are shifting. Their priorities are changing. They are beginning to value peace over noise, honesty over appearances, and genuine connection over temporary excitement. Without realizing it, both of you are becoming the kind of people who can recognize each other when the time is right. Have you noticed how life often becomes quiet just before something meaningful begins? The silence isn't empty. It's creating space. Space for new conversations. New opportunities. New perspectives. The moments that seem uneventful today may eventually become the foundation of a chapter you'll look back on with gratitude. There is another possibility worth considering. Perhaps that mysterious picture isn't asking you to search for one specific house at all. Perhaps it's inviting you to build the qualities that make any place feel like home: kindness, patience, trust, resilience, and hope. Once those qualities grow within you, the environment around you begins to reflect them. The future starts changing because you changed first. Take a deep look at your current path. Think about the people you've recently met. Think about unexpected invitations you've received or ideas that have quietly stayed in your mind. Small moments often carry larger meaning than we first realize. Not because they guarantee an outcome, but because they gently redirect our attention toward opportunities we might otherwise overlook. And if this story has made you pause even once, if it has encouraged you to think differently about your own future, then perhaps share your thoughts in the comments so others can reflect alongside you. If these journeys of hope and possibility inspire you, subscribing simply means you'll be here when the next chapter unfolds together. Before this part ends, remember one simple truth. You don't need to chase every possibility. The right opportunities rarely require panic. They ask for awareness. They ask for patience. They ask you to become the version of yourself that is ready when the next door quietly opens. Because in the next chapter, you'll discover why one unexpected conversation could reveal a hidden connection between that mysterious picture and a future that has been taking shape far longer than you ever imagined. Before you decide you've already understood the story, wait. There is one final layer that changes everything. Up until now, you've been thinking about a picture, a house, and a person. But what if none of those were the true destination? What if they were simply guiding your attention toward the version of yourself that has been quietly waiting to emerge? Stay with this until the last sentence, because the final piece doesn't arrive with noise, it arrives with clarity. Imagine waking up one ordinary morning. Nothing dramatic happens. The world outside looks exactly the same. Yet something inside you feels different. You begin seeing possibilities where you once saw limitations. Conversations that seemed meaningless suddenly connect together. Places that felt unfamiliar begin to feel inviting. You realize that the future never appeared overnight, it was growing beneath the surface the entire time, waiting for the moment when you were finally ready to recognize it. Now think back to that mysterious image once more. Why did it capture your attention? Perhaps it wasn't because it showed a beautiful home. Perhaps it represented something much deeper. Stability after uncertainty. Peace after confusion. Confidence after seasons of doubt. Every person carries an invisible picture of the life they hope to build someday. The remarkable part is that this picture slowly becomes clearer every time you choose growth over fear, patience over rushing, and purpose over distraction. Here's something that very few people notice. The biggest opportunities rarely announce themselves with certainty. They often arrive disguised as ordinary moments. A conversation that lasts 5 minutes longer than expected. A new place you almost decided not to visit. A message you nearly ignored. A chance meeting that seems completely random. Looking forward, they appear insignificant. Looking backward, they become the moments that changed everything. So what should you do while waiting for your next chapter? Keep building the life you would be proud to walk into tomorrow. Continue learning. Continue improving. Continue becoming someone whose presence brings peace wherever they go. Because the future you're hoping for isn't created by one lucky moment. It's created by hundreds of quiet choices that prepare you long before the opportunity arrives. Now imagine standing in front of that house once again. This time, you aren't looking through a screen. You're standing outside, smiling, not because you predicted the future, but because you've become someone who welcomes new beginnings with confidence instead of fear. You notice the sunlight reflecting through the windows. You hear laughter drifting through the air. You feel a sense of calm that cannot be explained by words alone. Whether this place is literal or symbolic no longer matters. What matters is the realization that you didn't simply arrive there by chance. Every lesson, every challenge, every unexpected turn prepared you for this moment. And then something surprising happens. You stop asking, "When will my future begin?" Instead, you smile and realize it already has. Every decision you've made recently has been quietly shaping tomorrow. Every step forward, even the small ones, has carried more significance than you realized. Progress was never absent. It was simply happening in ways too subtle to notice at first. So if this story has stayed with you until now, don't let its message end here. Carry this perspective into your own journey. Stay curious about the unexpected. Welcome new conversations. Keep your heart open to possibilities that arrive without warning. Sometimes the most meaningful chapters begin with nothing more than a single image, a single thought, or a single decision to believe that your best days are still ahead. And perhaps one day, you'll look back at this very moment. Not as the day you discovered someone else's house, but as the day you started building a future that finally felt like home. Until the next story, keep your vision clear, your heart hopeful, and your eyes open, because life has an extraordinary way of revealing its greatest surprises to those who never stop moving forward. One last thought: don't close this chapter just yet. There is something that only becomes visible when you've stayed long enough to see the entire picture. Throughout this journey, you may have been wondering whether the mysterious house was ever real. The answer is more powerful than you might expect. Real transformations rarely begin with certainty, they begin with possibility. And the people who embrace possibility are often the ones who eventually discover opportunities that others walked past without ever noticing. Take a moment and imagine yourself months from now. You're looking back on today with a quiet smile. Not because every question was answered immediately, but because you chose to remain hopeful while the answers were still unfolding. You remember the moments when life seemed uncertain. You remember wondering if anything meaningful was changing. Yet step by step, ordinary days slowly became extraordinary memories. The picture that once seemed mysterious no longer feels distant. It has become a symbol of how far you've come. Perhaps the greatest surprise wasn't meeting a certain person or finding a particular place. Perhaps the greatest surprise was discovering a stronger version of yourself. The version that no longer doubts every opportunity. The version that walks forward with confidence instead of hesitation. The version that understands that meaningful connections are built through patience, honesty, and mutual growth, not through rushing toward outcomes. As you continue your own journey, remember this simple truth: every ending quietly introduces a beginning. Every closed chapter creates space for another one to be written. Life has an incredible way of arranging moments that seem unrelated until, one day, they fit together like pieces of a masterpiece. Looking back, you'll realize that nothing meaningful was wasted. Every lesson added depth. Every delay added wisdom. Every challenge prepared you to appreciate what came next. So if you ever find yourself wondering whether your future is moving closer, don't search only for dramatic signs. Pay attention to the subtle ones. The peaceful feeling after making the right decision. The unexpected conversation that stays in your thoughts. The new opportunity that appears when you least expect it. Those quiet moments often carry the greatest meaning because they gently guide you without demanding your attention. If this story encouraged you to see your future with fresh eyes, I'd love to know what part stayed with you the most. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and if you'd like to continue exploring stories filled with hope, mystery, and possibility, subscribing simply means we'll continue this journey together in the next chapter. Before we part, carry this final image with you. A doorway stands open. Not because someone forced it open. Not because time rushed ahead. But because you kept growing until you were ready to walk through it. Whether that doorway leads to a new home, a meaningful friendship, an exciting opportunity, or simply a more peaceful season of life, the important thing is this: you'll step forward with confidence, knowing that every experience has helped shape the person you've become. The picture may fade. The moment may pass. But the lesson will remain. Your future is not something to fear. It is something to prepare for. And sometimes, the most beautiful chapters begin with nothing more than a single moment that inspires you to believe a little more than you did yesterday. Until our paths cross again, keep your heart open, your mind curious, and your vision fixed on the possibilities ahead, because the next chapter of your story may already be quietly waiting for you, just beyond the horizon. The journey doesn't truly end here, because the most meaningful stories never finish with a final sentence. They continue in the quiet moments after the screen fades, when you begin looking at your own life with different eyes. If you've stayed with this message until now, perhaps that isn't accidental. Perhaps there was one thought, one image, or one feeling that was meant to stay with you long after today's story is over. Think back to the very beginning. A mysterious picture. An unfamiliar house. A future that seemed hidden just beyond the horizon. Now look at where you stand. The mystery was never about proving that one exact event would happen. It was about awakening something inside you, the courage to believe that your life still holds chapters you haven't imagined yet. The greatest discoveries often begin the moment we stop asking, "Is this possible?" and start asking,